Hey guys, welcome back. My name is Joe Ellis. I'm a commercial wedding and portrait photographer in Dallas, Texas, and today we're going to talk about the EM1x. So since its introduction just about 4 or 5 days ago, there have just been hundreds of videos and millions of comments about this new camera coming online. And I just want to address a couple of the concerns people seem to be having and kind of give my 2 cents about where I think Olympus is going and where this new camera model sort of fits into the lineup. So the first thing is that I don't think that this camera was really purpose-built as a competition for the A9 and the 1DX Mark II and the D5 in terms of converting photographers in full-frame systems to Micro Four Thirds to shoot sports and wildlife. I really think this camera is actually aimed at the Olympus faithful. It's aimed at those of us who are already integrated into the system and love what Olympus is doing, and it kind of showing where they're going in the future in terms of technology and sort of giving us a roadmap of where they think that the improvements in image quality and features are going to be in the weeks and years and months to come. You know, if they are going to create converts, the way that it kind of works in my mind, the way it's worked for me over the last couple of years, is they see us in the field, loving the innovations that we have, loving the image quality that we get, loving the ability to capture photos in different ways. And when they see that, when people see that, either because we're passively doing it in front of them or we're actively telling them about our camera systems, that's where they create converts. You know, it's sort of like, I imagine there's a birding workshop and there's hundreds of photographers out there with these gigantic full-frame cameras and lenses. If someone comes out with an EM1x and a 300 f4 and starts making beautiful images and nailing focus all the time and being able to run around with a smaller, lighter, faster system, that's when someone's going to look at it and go, I need to go investigate what's going on there. And that's where Olympus will make converts out of people in the sports and wildlife world. It's not going to be because there's some long list of specs that someone says, oh, I've got to have that camera, or because some camera reviewer online said that this, that, or the other. So, I'm super encouraged about where Olympus is going, because I think the 2 spaces in which they're really innovating are artificial intelligence and computational photography. And I think this fits really well with Micro Four Thirds because it's sort of like the smartphone market, and it's actually borrowing, I think, some of that tech in the way that it's saying we can do better with a smaller, faster, lighter system by making it smarter rather than just making it bigger and more expensive. And so I think that this is an awesome move for Olympus. It shows us a bit about where they're headed in the future and gives us a bunch of new tools we can use to make images we wouldn't otherwise be able to make. Okay, so the first thing I hear from people is that the camera is too big. And I think this is an interesting argument because what it's really saying is that this particular camera model doesn't fit my particular needs. But I don't think the EM1x was built for everyone. It's not the camera model they think that every Olympus photographer is going to buy. But it is one that works really well for its intended purpose, which is people who have to hold a camera for 8 or 10 hours at a time, people who have to balance it against longer lenses, and pros who really need a durable camera body. And in those segments, I think the EM1x works perfectly. And, yes, I wish that they could trickle the features down or move the features across into all the different camera models so that everybody was on the same playing field. And I think they will do that in time. One of the things we have to remember about Olympus cameras is that oftentimes they get better over time, which is an amazing thing to me in this day and age, that you can buy a camera 1 year and by the time it gets to the next or the one after that, you've actually increased the number of features that it has. So if I think we just give Olympus some time, you're going to see not only new models with these features, but you're going to see some of this stuff come through us in firmware. And I think that's an awesome way to support Olympus photographers, and I think that it will genuinely be something that is exciting to see in the weeks and months ahead. Okay, so the other thing I want to mention about the size of the camera is just that while the camera body itself may have gotten a little bit bigger, the system overall is always going to be smaller. And system weight is really more important in my mind than camera weight. It's the lenses that really add the most bulk and weight to any camera system. And overall, Micro Four Thirds is still much smaller than anything else that I know of on the market when you look at equivalent field of view that you have in your bag. So, yes, we may have added a little bit of weight on the camera body side, but, because we're not carrying around the bigger, faster lenses of the full frame systems, we're still a fraction of the weight. So just keep that in mind. The second argument I'm hearing from people is that it's too expensive. And, this is a tough one. Yes, this is probably the most expensive Micro Four Thirds camera that's come out to date. But I do think that when you build a professional camera body, when you build a flagship body, you're already expecting it not to sell in the same numbers as you would if it was a more consumer grade model. And I think that between the weather sealing and the durable build, adding the artificial intelligence and having to do the R&D for computational photography, they have a lot of R&D costs that they're recouping here, and they're hoping that they can sell enough of these that they can continue to move forward in the future on adding these to other camera models. And so, by and large, you're going to find that in everybody's camera range, this camera is the most expensive. And if you compare it to what is actually competing against, like the A9, 1DX Mark II, D5, so on and so forth, our Micro Four Thirds probe model here, the EM1x, is still a fraction of the cost of another system. So I still think this is really falling in line with exactly where they have been. And I think that if you are a business owner, if you're a pro, $3,000 is not like the end of the world or too much to ask in terms of price for a camera body. And because it's really something that's aimed at the Olympus faithful, in my mind, I think that this cost is completely justified and does represent a great value for someone who's going to shoot millions of frames with this camera body. Okay, so what do I find really encouraging about the EM1x? I think this is really simple. I've already mentioned these two things. It's artificial intelligence and it's computational photography. Artificial intelligence to me is like this new focusing system. If the camera already understands what it's taking a picture of, whether it be planes, trains, and automobiles, football players, runners, wedding dresses, whatever it might be, then you're giving it a huge leg up in understanding where you want the focus to be and making it faster and more accurate. As they add more to this technology, focus is going to become so good that it's something we just don't worry about very much anymore. I know that we're not there yet for everything, and that we're going to need to add a lot to this down the line, but if you look at where it's heading, I can totally see it kind of moving in that direction. Also, just as it is sitting currently, the EM1x has better continuous autofocus than the EM1 Mark II, simply because it has more processing power. That 120 frames per second that the clock speed's working and giving the dedicated computer to doing the autofocus is going to speed things up considerably. And I think that's actually awesome, and it's something that's directly related to the cost of the camera. So, artificial intelligence is one of the key things. The second one is, of course, computational photography. Handheld high-res mode, I mean, are you kidding me? I don't know anybody else who could pull this off. I think this is amazing tech. Live ND, live composite, all of these things are just, harbingers of what's going to happen in the future. And I think that it really does kind of stem from, smartphone technology. And I have always wondered, when that was going to make it over to DSLRs. I personally think that that our camera should actually have the ability to get on a cell network, and so we can send pictures directly from our cameras. But I see these things coming down the line, and I really want Olympus to be at the head of this technology because it does fit so well with Micro Four Thirds, and it is such an easy sort of at least it's easy for me to understand that that's where I see the future of photography going. Okay, so will I be getting these camera bodies? Of course I will. I think that as a guy who wants to capture as many, real moments as possible in terms of journalism, a guy who has to work in low light like I do, even the introduction of the new radio-controlled wireless flashes, all of these are things that directly relate to my job as a wedding photographer, so I'm super excited to get my hands on the EM1Xs and put them to work. So just, two things to kind of conclude here. I really see Olympus as a brand and Olympus photographers being what I would call a bunch of thoughtful rebels. We're already people who kind of go against the mainstream a little bit. And what we love about our cameras is that they are small, they are capable, they are fun, and they are innovative. And I think that, you know, those features are things that this camera still very much embraces. And, you know, and we want to be able to get those cameras out in any conditions. We want to be able to use them easily, like without tripods or monopods. And we also really love the unique features that they bring to the table. And so that is really where Olympus is as a brand. And I think that computational photography, artificial intelligence, those are things that are going to be a part of the Olympus lineup as a whole as we move forward. And so to see the EM1x as a flagship in that way is sort of like, here's a roadmap. Here's what we can do right now, and here's where we're headed in the future. And then last, I just want to mention that as you look at online reviews and camera reviewers and stuff like that, I think it's really important to consider the source. You know, I really love listening to other working photographers, and I hope that that's why you would come to this channel, because I'm a person who uses these cameras for 8 or 10 or 12 hours a day, and I take millions of photos a year. And so when I'm giving advice, I'm trying to be really practical and to give you guys stuff that you can directly take and use in your own work. And those are the kind of reviews that I really like. If you are watching someone online who's giving a review of a camera whose photography you don't like, who doesn't really use these cameras for a living, they can't possibly know the nuances and have the understanding of how to get the most out of an EM1x. So just consider the source as you're out there online, and take everything that you read with a grain of salt. Just because, you know, the real rubber will hit the road when these are in the hands of real photographers and we start to see, you know, real hands-on tutorials coming out. And so whether it's Olympus visionaries or me or anybody else, those are the spaces I really find are the most useful in terms of actually giving you guys real actionable, usable intelligence and advice. So that's it for me today, you guys. I'm really looking forward to this. I will see you guys in the next one. And don't forget to subscribe, hit the notification bell, and I'll see you guys soon. Bye.